My name is Rick Ramos. I'm an attorney here in Houston, and I have been chosen by several families throughout the state of Texas to go ahead and represent their children who were, in fact, the victims at the Travis Scott concert. We are here to express our concerns to the general public, express our sorrows to the families that have lost individual loved ones, their children, at this concert. At this point in time, we have engaged in the representation of these victims in order for them to, number one, receive proper treatment for their injuries, and number two, the trauma associated emotionally with the scene and what these children were subjected to at this concert. They were subjected to witnessing dead bodies. They were subjected to seeing people dead right in front of them that could not be resuscitated. They were subjected to seeing bodies that were turned purple right in front of their eyes. They witnessed their friends being crushed by barricades. They witnessed their brothers and sisters being stomped on while a mob crowd was trying to essentially enter an event and then leave an event. The biggest issue in this entire situation, as far as who is responsible, is that back in 2019, in the same premises, in the same event, with the same artist, a very similar situation occurred. Not very, it was the similar situation. It was the same, meaning the crowd went ahead and stormed the barricades, went into the actual venue. Security could not stop it. There was criminal activity that took place at the concert back in 2019, again with the same artist at the same venue, and essentially tickets were handed out. Children were in fact hurt, and children were passed out. That's important because the whole premise of this case here, as we sit here today, is that in 2021, the holders of this event that went ahead and acquired a permit for the premises, okay, had essentially notice, an actual notice, and they could foreseen the fact that this, in fact, was going to take place because it has taken place before in the same venue. That is probably the key component in this entire lawsuit. In addition to that, Mr. Scott, once aware that we have bodies floating on the crowd, body surfing right in front of him, lifeless, okay, continue on with the show. Not only did he continue on with the show, as more and more bodies were dropping, essentially he went ahead and turned to the crowd and got the crowd more energized, more pumped up. You know, like this was feeding the crowd. And essentially he got this crowd and enticed this crowd and turned it into an absolute mob when they went ahead and were hurting one another. The key component in this, again, is the fact that Mr. Scott was able to finish his set. This concert did not stop. He stopped for a second to just witness an ambulance coming down, which put him on notice of what was going on, along with the dead bodies in front of him. Yet he continued on to the last song, knowing that these kids were out there dropping like flies, dead bodies, kids passing out, kids that could not be resuscitated, and kids that were being trampled on right in front of his face. Essentially, Mr. Scott took the approach, in my opinion, that the show must go on, but the show must go on doesn't mean people got to die at your show. He went ahead and this is what he decided to do. He decided to go ahead and then pour gasoline onto this show, like I like to say. After seeing the dead bodies right in front of him, he turned around to the crowd and said, "Everybody put your middle finger up. And then let me see you put your other middle finger up." And then the other half of the crowd is screaming, "Let me out of here, I'm going to die." That's what you could hear from the crowd. Yet he continued on and played two subsequent songs for the next 15 minutes while children were being trampled, some of which are in fact our clients, and got caught in barricades. They suffer severe injuries, whether it was shoulder, we have ribs that were essentially broken, we have legs that were essentially ankles that were not only badly sprained, we have hamstrings, we have kids that were tumbled over, stepped on. We have one girl that actually landed in a gutter. If you can believe, your own daughter landing in a gutter at a concert. So our concern is Mr. Scott is fully aware, okay, of essentially the cause of his behavior and his actions. At some point in time, you have to be accountable. And this is all about accountability. If you knew and you can foresee the fact that this is going to take place because it has happened before, and you don't do what you need to do in order to prevent it, in order to have safety measures in place, in order to assure the safety of these children and adults while they're at your concert, then you need to be held liable. Now, there was a permit that was obtained by Mr. Scott and his management group in order to be able to hold this event. You have to put together a proposal, 60 plus pages. You have to put down the security you're going to have. You got to put the medical staff that's going to be present. You have to put exits in place. Well, Mr. Scott had an exit strategy after his last set, except our children that were present did not have an exit strategy. Their exit strategy was to get run over, tumble over, and essentially get broken bones and see dead people on the way out of his concert. While Mr. Scott went ahead and took his exit strategy right out the side door without a scratch and left the entire scene of the accident after he went ahead and lit it on fire and watched it burn. So that is what we're here for. And we just want to say that, you know what, we really are hurt because we are also parents. We have children that if one of our kids would have undergone such a tragic event in their life, this is a life-changing event for a child. We would want somebody to step in and actually seek justice for these children and pursue every remedy available under Texas law in order to obtain that. And that's what we're going to do.
Any questions?
What are you guys trying to get out of this settlement? What are you looking for?
Essentially, what we're looking for in a settlement, and at this point in time, that's premature. But the lawsuit essentially is in the millions of dollars, and I'll tell you why. The victims are all young. Some of these victims are, give you an example, one is a scholarship football player, okay? He's on scholarship. So he has a rotator cuff tore. He has a hamstring destroyed. This kid's a running back by trade. Now, he can't work out, no weight training, no spring football. His scholarship is in jeopardy, and never mind the fact that he saw two people actually died in front of him as he was getting basically run over on his way out of the event. So when you look at the damage model, essentially on a case like this, what you're looking at is you're looking at what are the injuries that took place, and then something that you can't quantify or you cannot measure, which is the traumatic event and the effect that this event has had on these children emotionally. Some of these children may not be able to go into crowded rooms anymore. They may not be able to go into crowded restaurants or concerts or events, essentially because they are going to suffer emotionally from what occurred in this event and go ahead and take that and transgress it over into other events or other venues in their life, which is going to impact their quality of life. So this case is just more than money. It's really about the emotional well-being of our community, of our children going forward, and somebody at least trying to address what occurred and get to the bottom of it in the sense that Mr. Scott, again, was fully aware from the basis of all the evidence that's out there that this was likely to occur and he could have foreseen this as happening at this event. So that's why we're here. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
How many current clients are you representing in this whole lawsuit?
We have approximately 10 right now. We're on our way probably to 20. So, and one of them is a death and out of state. And the other ones are all children that half of them are minors. So, I mean, that, you know, they bought their tickets. Some of them had side jobs in order to go ahead and get their money, in order to save their money. These tickets were some in excess of, you know, $300, $600, $1,500 a pop for these kids that went ahead and put up their money to go to this event. Some of them showed up at 12:30 in the afternoon to be able to run up to the main stage and be the first ones there. What they didn't understand that there was a wave coming right behind them, okay, just being stacked like sardines with absolutely, there's no capacity rule for an outdoor event in the city of Houston, which is insanity in and of itself, okay? But you have to have at least some level of common sense, which is if you're going to have that many people packed in this venue, obviously the 68-page proposal that you put forward in order to obtain your permit had to have safety measures beyond safety measures because of the history that you had already in this city on a similar event.
You mentioned one of your clients is one of the deaths. Do you care to share who they've all the names have been released? Do you care to share who that is and what it's been like, communicating with the parents or
I will tell you that out of respect for that family right now, because they are grieving the death of their child, I will not disclose the child's name. I think that is completely unfair to try to piggyback publicity on that. What I am going to tell you is this: that family's grieving. The family's upset. The family's upset because they're from out of state. Family's upset because they had their child come to Houston. Family's upset because they didn't bargain for their child to show up at an event and then not come home. So essentially, this is a process also for this family that now has to obtain counseling. Now they have to obtain a support system. Now they want answers as to what happened to their child while that child was here attending a concert, where you're not supposed to end up dead at a concert. You're supposed to show up with your friends, go have a good time, go have fun, and just enjoy being your age at that point in time. So it's a tragedy. It's sad.
Rick, when you talk about filing a lawsuit against multiple defendants, what we're talking about?
Multiple defendants are, and at this point in time, Andrea, the best way to say this is this: multiple defendants are defendants that are going to be held liable for what occurred. But you have to be careful in the defendants that you pick. You cannot take the approach of taking a shotgun approach and want to sue everybody under the sun that you think was somehow responsible for the event. So you really have to look at the evidence. You have to look at the paperwork. You have to look at the statements from the actual victims. You have to look who was present. And then you have to make sure that when you actually file your lawsuit, okay, that your defendant is somebody that can be held liable. It is not someone that you're just trying to go ahead and sue in order to gain publicity or just to have them on the piece of paper in order for you to say, well, we sued 15 people. Well, we don't want to sue 15 people. I want to sue 20 people if they're responsible, 25 people if they're responsible, but maybe they're just going to be 10. So that's the process that we're undergoing, because I think due diligence requires us to do that, and that's the right way to do it for our clients.
If the English station doesn't have any...
Just one more. We were talking kind of off camera about
yes, sir.
Kind of just what you mentioned. When you have that many levels of, you got Live Nation, you got Travis Scott, you got City of Houston, you got all these people, how hard does that make the investigation to bring all this together to get justice for your clients?
It makes it more difficult because you have layers of defendants. So anytime you have layers of defendants, then from an investigation standpoint, and that's I have one of probably the best in the state to do that, but you have to layer liability. So what happens is you have concert goers that purchased a ticket. And, just as a word of caution to every lawyer that has filed a lawsuit out here, may have picked the wrong defendant, okay? If you filed a lawsuit against somebody that may have sold you the ticket, you may have to go deal with an arbitration clause under that ticket, which means a motion to abate, which means you are doing your client no justice. Okay, once they file a motion to abate, that means to stop the lawsuit so they can go ahead and enforce an arbitration clause, because the state of Texas favors arbitration. So you got to be careful how you lawyer this case for your victim in order for them to get the best result possible, and not just go into the system and then you're at a standstill. Your client will receive absolutely zero in the form of justice or compensation, because procedurally you are ill-equipped as an attorney to go ahead and handle the case. So you have to do it right if you're going to do it.
Vamos ahora a hacerlo en español. Lo mismo, tu nombre, tu
Mm-hmm.
título y lo que estamos haciendo aquí el día de hoy.
Sí. Mi nombre es Ricardo Ramos, soy un abogado aquí en la ciudad de Houston y estoy representando muchas de las víctimas del concierto de Travis Scott y la tragedia que pasó en el concierto de Travis Scott. Muchas de las víctimas verdaderamente son niños o niñas, son menores de edad. Algunos son adultos, pero verdaderamente son menos de la edad de 25 años. Esos pobres niños verdaderamente entraron a un concierto para ver una estrella que ellos verdaderamente oyen la música de esa estrella. El problema es que esa estrella, okay, antes, cuando tuvo eventos aquí en Houston, tuvo los mismos problemas que tuvieron en el concierto de 2021. Lo que pasó es que los niños van a entrar entonces a en un evento y verdaderamente lo que están haciendo es entrando en la misma situación que pasó en 2019 y verdaderamente ellos no entienden esa situación, porque a lo mejor no estuvieron ahí, a lo mejor no entienden lo que está pasando. Entonces lo estamos poniendo verdaderamente en el concierto y verdaderamente Travis Scott y la gente que manejan a Travis Scott pusieron los niños en una posición donde entran al evento y entonces lo ponen a esos niños verdaderamente como sardinas. Lo ponen unos arriba de los otros y lo empujan y lo empujan y lo empujan y lo empujan hasta que entren todos los niños posibles que pueden entrar en un paquete que verdaderamente vamos a decir que mide esto y están entrando más o menos este número de niños. Y verdaderamente los niños siguen diciendo con la misma historia. No pueden respirar. Habían niños que verdaderamente estaban parados y estaban parados la cabeza para poder respirar y ponerse para abajo otra vez cuando verdaderamente tenían toda la presión en el pecho que no podían respirar, no podían moverse para irse porque no podían. Entonces están puestos en una situación donde tienen que estar en una posición a riesgo de su propia vida. A ese riesgo de su propia vida hubo gente o otros niños al lado de esos niños que se murieron. Esos niños vieron otros niños al lado de ellos en el piso, verdaderamente cambiando colores en su cara, alante de ellos, cuando alguien trató de entrar a ayudar a esa persona y no pudieron. Esa persona se murió, ese niño vio eso, ese niño fue a un concierto a oír música, no a ver a alguien que se muriera alante de ellos. Arriba de eso, los niños verdaderamente están en un concierto y no hay salidas, no hay seguridad, no hay nadie que pueda ayudar a estos niños. Estos pobres niños verdaderamente estuvieron ahí, muchos de ellos, gritando, ayúdenme, ayúdenme. Nadie vino a ayudar a los niños, nadie. Esos niños se quedaron ahí solos. Y hubo un tiempo que esos niños te van a decir que verdaderamente en su cabecita pensaron que se iban a morir en ese mismo punto. Y verdaderamente eso no se puede tolerar. Eso no puede pasar en esta ciudad, no puede pasar en ninguna ciudad, porque los niños de nosotros verdaderamente como mamá y papá lo ponemos en un concierto para que los niños vean algo que verdaderamente puedan disfrutar, no a que los niños verdaderamente lleguen para la casa o no lleguen para la casa y después vienen tan dañados emocionalmente y físicamente que verdaderamente ahora tenemos que recoger estas piezas y tratar de arreglar lo que podemos para ayudar a los niños. Y esa es la tragedia que pasó en todo esto.
¿Puedes hablar de uno de tus clientes cuando estabas describiendo que él estaba buscando una beca para estudiar y ahora quizás ya no lo pueda lograr por todo el daño que sufrió físicamente, y también lo que ocurrió con el artista cuando mostró el dedo y todo lo que pasó?
El niño verdaderamente es un niño bien lindo, un niño verdaderamente, más de 6 pies, niño ancho, respetuoso, bonito el niño verdaderamente, y juega fútbol americano. Y el niño verdaderamente pues tiene beca para jugar fútbol americano. Ese niño fue y atendió ese concierto y salió de ese concierto más o menos diciendo que no hay posibilidad que ese niño pueda jugar fútbol americano otra vez como lo jugaba antes, porque no va a poder. Tiene un hombro verdaderamente rotado que está roto. Tiene una pierna verdaderamente que no la puede mover en este momento. Ese niño en este momento no puede perseguir su sueño, que es lo que él quería hacer en su vida, verdaderamente porque fue al concierto. El concierto de Travis Scott fue uno donde el artista Travis Scott vio por sus puros ojos los niños muriéndose alante de él. Le dijeron a él que había muchachos o niños que estaban pasados de oxígeno en el piso, que no se podían levantar, que había niños verdaderamente que estaban muertos. El señor Scott decidió seguir con el concierto, mirando y sabiendo que todo esto estaba pasando alante de él. Y su reacción verdaderamente fue, bueno, si ustedes están viendo esto, pues levanten la mano y enséñenme el dedo del medio para ver que ustedes están respondiendo a lo que yo estoy diciendo, que es verdaderamente la energía más, verdaderamente para poner más gasolina a esto, para que los niños pues se siguen verdaderamente desmayándose alante de él porque no pueden respirar. Y eso fue, continuó hasta que acabó el concierto. Ese hombre acabó el concierto y después se fue en un plan de escape, como le dice él. Pero los niños, cuando se acabó, no había escape. Los niños estaban verdaderamente contra paredes de hierro que no podían salir. Cuando vienen los otros niños, los empujan a todas esas paredes y no pueden respirar. Por eso hay costillas rotas, por eso hay problemas en los estómagos, por eso hay piernas que los niños no pueden caminar. Los niños estaban corriendo uno arriba de los otros. Agarraron las entradas y subieron las entradas porque subieron arriba de los cuerpos de cada uno hasta que llegaron a la calle. Eso fue lo que pasó en este concierto, verdaderamente una tragedia, pero bien grande, bien grande.
Abogado, si me pudiera decir en español el tipo de clientes que está representando, son que sufrieron daño psicológico, daño físico, y escuché de uno que lamentablemente perdió la vida. Si nos lo puede decir en español, por favor.
Sí, los niños tienen los dos. Los niños tienen verdaderamente, físicamente, pues tienen muchos daños a las costillas porque se quedaron plantados verdaderamente por las costillas donde el hierro va que divide el concierto, que es como una pared chiquita para tener a todos los niños en un área. Los niños se me quedaron verdaderamente puestos en esa área de ese hierro y no se podían mover por hasta 15 minutos. Tengo costillas rotas, tengo las piernas verdaderamente que en este momento le están haciendo los exámenes a los niños. No sabemos el extent de qué es lo que le pasó en las piernas, pero los niños verdaderamente no pueden caminar. Muchos de ellos ahora no pueden casi respirar, tienen muchos problemas porque les duele mucho las costillas y el pecho todavía. Todo eso se tiene que examinar y todavía no se sabe si verdaderamente adentro pues hubo una ruptura adentro de un órgano verdaderamente porque no se sabe. Los niños se quedaron verdaderamente con esa presión puesto a esas paredes de metales. Tenemos los dos. Tenemos físicamente, los niños pues sufrieron mucho, ¿ok? Y emocionalmente sufrieron demasiado. Tenemos los dos componentes en el caso verdaderamente.
Y el chico no quería decir su nombre del chico que perdió la vida, lo entiendo, pero es uno nada más, ¿verdad?
Hasta ahora es uno el que tenemos y verdaderamente la familia, porque no viven aquí, verdaderamente nunca pensaron que eso iba a pasar en un concierto cuando mandaron la niña.
Ahora
acá.
habla en español de la parte del el número de entidades o corporaciones que se está buscando demandar y el monto que se está buscando conseguir, la compensación.
Estamos buscando verdaderamente, todo el mundo está buscando Live Nation, tú sabes, más o menos, ¿okay? Pero esas corporaciones verdaderamente pues tienen 3 subsidiarios. Es Live Nation Global, Live Nation Management, Live Enterprises, y entonces pues viene a Travis Scott y después hay Cactus Jack Records. Cuando tú estás yendo verdaderamente y vas yendo por la línea, pues vas a llegar más o menos a 13 o a 14 en estos momentos que estás buscando a ver si esa gente fueron parte del evento verdaderamente y pues podemos buscar a esos, traerlos adentro de la corte, ¿ok? Porque queremos saber qué fue lo que pasó. ¿Por qué ustedes invirtieron en la ciudad de Houston a buscar este venue, este lugar, a traer a los niños de nosotros aquí adentro y verdaderamente a ponerlos en una situación donde se iban a matar? Por eso es lo que estamos buscando nosotros y estamos buscando la compensación en los millones de dólares, porque esto no se va a curar ninguno de estos niños por el resto de su vida. Esto va a quedar aquí hasta que esos niños no estén aquí con nosotros.
Gracias.
De nada. You're welcome. Thank you.
You guys
you go.
Rick,
Hold on, Rick, hold
I
on.
don't wanna
The
run
mic,
off with
the
your
mic,
mic.
the mic.
Yeah, yeah. I was worried about that.
And,
Yeah.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
We're looking to bring one of the victims later, so we'll let you guys know.
Like later today or?
Like, I think it's the kid that he was talking about, that he got a scholarship,
Football,
yeah,
okay.
correct. Yeah, later today.
Okay.
So, we'll,
No time frame.
no, we're working, I mean, let me see, did he already respond,
Because-
what time? You guys gonna be live from here?
No, now, but we wanna go live from the park. But can you give us a call?
Yeah, let me check.
Without
Sure, let me check.
time.
Time frame, I know, yeah.
Want yours, Damien?